Welcome to the SnapCast podcast, where two friends who love Magic, Brad O'Brien and Zach Mueller, get together each week to talk about Magic the Gathering. Whether casual, competitive, or the secondary market subgame, we talk about current events, our own experiences with the game, and aim to share tips, tricks, and trends for saving or making money through the secondary market. Hey Zach, what's going on?
Not too much, Brad. How about yourself?
I'm doing better today. We had like one of those supposed snow apocalypses up here in the Northeast last weekend. Snowmageddon. And I just let it all come down. And Saturday just stayed hunkered down.
Yep.
Sunday got out and made a path to the garage, which was work. And then
A feat.
And then, because it was at least a feet. Maybe
It was at
more
least
than
a foot. Yep.
And then got the snowblower going and did my driveway, which is a pretty good long driveway.
It is.
And then there's another side that comes up behind the house.
Yep.
And especially down where the snowplow was, everybody knows you get that snowplow lump at the end of the driveway. That was like way over the snow thrower.
Yep.
So I had to like hit it and then pull it back.
Hit it again.
Yep. And let it fall down and hit it again. And then I realized I also have to get oil delivery, which is on the other side of the house. So I had to make our path basically around a loop around the house as well. Mm. And that was all fine and dandy.
You had a snowblower, so that helped.
Oh, yeah. No, I would have been I would have literally died. This chunky 40-something was not going to go out with a shovel. And that was fine. And then I came in the house and I decided that I wanted the recliner and the couch in opposite places in my living room. And my back was like, no, you...
No. I couldn't find anything like that in the living room in your home.
Is your Alexa going?
Apparently. But yeah, I tweaked my back hard. I was laid up for a day, and then yesterday and today have both been backache days. So,
Yep.
I mean... I've been doing okay.
Yep.
That's not the worst thing in the world, but it sucked.
Oh, absolutely.
How about you?
We thankfully I was over at my girlfriend's house and she has someone come plow. Their landlord has someone come plow. He came at like 9:30 Saturday night and we had 3 vehicles that we had to juggle around because I had my work truck, my personal vehicle, and her vehicle. So we had to juggle vehicles around to get that plowed. And then Sunday, we got to go to my house and shovel out because I have such a small driveway in front of my house. My landlord doesn't do anything for snow removal because it's not really worth it.
Yeah.
So we had to shovel. It took us maybe 20 minutes, but it was a lot of snow. A lot of snow. And again, I just look at that shoveling shit as a young man's game. Well, that's why you got the snowblower.
That's right. I actually made a funny post about it because when my previous partner and I split ways, she went someplace that they had plow service, and I was like, I need the snowblower. I don't care who paid for it. I need the snowblower, and so I got the snowblower in the divorce.
It works out. It really does though, because you really living in Maine, you really need that for wintertime. For everyone that doesn't deal with snow, it sucks. A lot.
It's beautiful when you're holding a cup of coffee and looking out the window.
Yep.
But when you actually have to deal with it, it sucks.
It does.
Play any Magic since the last time I saw you?
Actually, I don't think I did. I didn't play Friday night because I'd spent the previous weekend traveling, so stayed home and didn't go to Tuesday Night Magic the other night. So I've done some motoing, but not a ton.
I got to play 3 games last night with some of the folks that are testing for another 1K in New Hampshire this weekend.
Yep.
So there weren't enough folks at the shop to fire the event, but people wanted to play just to test. So I definitely stuck it to poor Dan Brown trying to play Burn against Hammer Time. And it was just like, I just roasted him. It was not even fair. And so later on, we're going to talk about some Kamigawa previews.
Absolutely.
And you pointed out to me one that might be cool in Hammer Time, but we'll get there.
Yep.
Now, you were talking about playing on Moto this week, and we talked about it before, how you're kind of a big aficionado, but you told me there was some cool stuff that went down with that.
There was. So, Aspiring Spike, who, if anyone's been following Magic Online at all, has been doing a trophy race for the past 3 months. Each season he's been doing a trophy race. He's currently leading trophy race.
That's awesome.
But he also does articles for Channel Fireball. And this past weekend or past few days, he actually posted an article to Channel Fireball about fish, which a lot of pros don't like fish. They trash talk it all the time. Ari Lax is one of those people that recently, the past few months, around Christmas, Thanksgiving time, trash talked fish. And if you follow on Twitter, he got roasted for it pretty badly by some of the prominent fish people in the community. Not me.
Fish people.
But, so, I mean, just kind of funny
Isn't
stuff.
the proper name Merfolk?
It is. It's Merfolk. But a lot of us call it, everyone calls it fish.
Well, I just mean fish people. Shouldn't we call the people in your Discord Merfolk?
Yeah, probably. But so it is behind a paywall.
Okay.
So I didn't get to read all of it, but I read the first, quarter of it or whatever they previewed for it, and but yeah, that was kind of cool because you don't see that very often. You don't get a lot of positive things for fish from the pros. Yeah. And he's mostly Aspiring Spike. I believe he's mostly a moto grinder and has been since at least COVID. But it's still pretty cool to see that on at least a well-known.
A little respect from somebody that.
Yeah, just a little bit. And he plays a lot of brews and like kind of off the wall things. So it's nice to see.
Yeah, I've been following him a little bit in the trophy race. Particularly because he's been playing a lot of Boros decks, a lot of decks with Stoneforge Mystic, which are, clearly decks that I like. And you're right. For somebody that is really grinding in this trophy race, which is all a thing that the whole trophy race idea is something that he created, right?
It is. He wanted to give the community something to kind of look forward to. Yeah. Since we're not doing events, we don't have anything big going on, it kind of gave some people to just something to follow. Basically, he streams every day. Some of the other big trophy leaders, I'm drawing blanks on at the moment, Demonic Tutors and some other few people stream pretty much daily. Yeah. So you can find them on Twitch, other platforms, and you can just watch them play Magic, which is nice. It's nice to do.
It's pretty funny because if I was watching him stream and another streamer's name popped up as his opponent, I would be able to recognize it right away.
Exactly.
But I'm in the same boat as you right now. I can't name one for the life of me, other than Aspiring Spike. Although I will be proud enough to say that I know his real name is Everett Mohan.
Yep.
Because he posts his VODs, and CFB also shares his videos on occasion. And there was a week where he was doing Oswald Fiddlebender Brews.
Okay.
Which is a white artifact-related creature. And I was so enthralled by it. And then later that week, I saw CFB posted. So earlier in the week, I watched Aspiring Spike's Oswald Fiddlebender decks. And then later in the week, CFB's like, Everett Mohan plays Oswald Fiddlebender. And I'm like, okay, I don't know who this dude is, but I'm going to watch it. And I'm like, wait.
That's Spike.
That's Spike. Wait, I think I already watched this. So good on him for getting paid twice for content.
Yep.
So, also sort of tangentially fish related, there was some Twitter drama.
There's always Twitter drama. If anyone follows any sort of Magic personality on Twitter, they should know this. But Seb, I can never pronounce his last name.
Seb McKinnon. I was thinking I would actually go and pull up that thing that you sent me.
Yeah. He posted on Twitter about one of the truck caravan, not protest, but a truck caravan assembly, whatever you want to call it. And
in Canada, right?
Canada. I believe it was the one in Canada.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read what he wrote because Seb, this was a tweet. he traveled to Ottawa with his family to support the Trucker Freedom Convoy. And what he's saying is that this convoy or thing that went through Canada is getting a bad rap as being labeled as something that it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether it is or not.
Right.
I can't tell you. But the things that he talks about that this is supposedly about is freedom of choice and bodily sovereignty. I'm all for that. Informed medical consent and no coercion. I'm all for that. A world without QR codes. I mean, I kind of like QR codes, man. I don't know what that actually is. That might be a Canadian thing.
It probably is.
And it sounds like this has been portrayed as an anti-vax thing. And then you told me that there's an unwelcome crowd of people that might be associated with this event.
Yeah, so because he's done artwork for Civloon, the new fish god that we got from MH2, some people, because of this post, have decided that they no longer wish. Oh, not that artwork. That's a different one.
Oh, this is a Howard Lyon. Sorry,
yeah.
Howard.
Yep, that's a different one. I actually don't have one on me, but
it's all right.
It's they've just decided that they no longer want to support him or his artwork. They're gonna sell out his artwork that they have, switch artworks to that one, and which is fine if that's what they want to do. That's totally their choice. I may or may not do it as well. I mean, it's fine.
It's funny, but it's really funny to me because I feel so insulated from most of what people are worried about with cancel culture.
Right.
And so for me, because I don't experience it a whole lot, I think a lot of it is overblown. And it's just one of those instances where I really like this guy's art. I don't care what his policies are. I don't care what his politics are.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of the same way. Like I like his artwork. I can associate artwork to the person, but I can then separate what they choose to follow and believe.
Yeah.
So like I like the artwork. That's what I'm gonna go with. Yeah. And that's how I'm gonna be. I mean, it is what it is.
And there's a huge difference between saying Seb McKinnon attended an event that might have also been attended by racists.
Right.
And saying Seb McKinnon is a racist.
Yes.
Those two cannot be conflated. And, there are very few hills on which I'm willing to die, but I'll give that one to Seb today. So for all 14 of you that watch this on YouTube and 36 that download it, Brad had a strong opinion.
That's fine. Like it is what it is. If you want to support somebody for their views in politics, that's fine. If you don't want to support someone for their views in politics, that's also fine.
Right. I mean, I could just as right. Isn't that a better way to spend your energy? Hey, this person is saving children. I'm going to support that person versus saying that person said a naughty word. I'm going to take their job away. But that's neither here nor there.
No.
The biggest thing I think going on in Magic right now actually has a lot of people excited are the Kamigawa previews. There are so many cards in here that I'm already like, ooh, I want to try this. I wonder if this would work with this. I definitely want, the channel lands for my EDH decks.
Absolutely.
I definitely, there was a 1-mana 2/2 with haste.
Yep.
Human.
All over that one.
So why don't we talk about some of those, and I'll actually bring them up on the screen.
Sure. Well, those I've been following the spoilers as they come, but they have just been flying through the internet. It seems every few minutes, every few seconds, and it just seems like it's been really quick. I know it releases in a few weeks, and I haven't really been interested in spoiler season for a few seasons, so maybe this is the first time I'm actually interested in it, and I'm just trying to consume that content, and it's just coming so quickly.
It's hard to keep up with. And you're right. I think we're also out of practice because I haven't given a crap about. I have as far back as the School of Mages. What was that one?
Strixhaven. Which is, I think, I was going to say, it was kind of about the time that I kind of fell off of the let's follow spoilers as well.
I was all into Keldheim.
Yep.
I got a bunch of cards. I got a bunch of packs. Strixhaven, I maybe got my traditional bought a fat pack to use as a storage box.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the D&D set.
Yep.
Maybe I got a fat pack. And then we had 2 Innistrad sets, and I couldn't even tell you, I couldn't tell you what cards are in it. I've played some of them online in Arena, but no.
I think the issue was we had Strixhaven and then MH2, or MH2 and then Strixhaven, just back to back. We weren't even through. We were barely through the first few weeks of MH2 when we started having Strixhaven spoilers. And I think at that point, a lot of people, even before the D&D set came out, was just so burnt out on new sets that it just kind of fell off the map for a lot of people. But the D&D set was pretty cool. But the Innistrad sets, I couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you at all.
But I hear all sorts of people talking about Kamigawa.
Yep.
And, the original Kamigawa plane was not that well beloved.
No, and I think I even remember reading people saying, or even Mark Rosewater saying, it wasn't really the set that people enjoyed the most. A lot of people didn't like it. They disliked it. And then for us to kind of go back so suddenly, well, maybe not so suddenly, but just going back when knowing that there was not a lot of positive feedback for that set, kind of surprising.
But it has more hype than I've heard for
it does
anything, at least since Keldheim. And maybe that's my perspective, because I haven't been hyped about anything. But there are definitely cards in here that make me go, make me want to play. And I'm just going to jump in. I'm going to take the first pick here because Zach sent this card to me earlier and said, black-white Hammer Time needs another equipment. Blade of the Oni, 1 and a black, artifact creature equipment demon. The creature types in this are amazing. And actually, I do have a note here that I wanted to talk about. How cool is it that Stoneforge Mystic can now get creatures out of your deck? So Blade of the Oni is a 3/1 with Menace, but it also has the reconfigure mechanic. For 2 black, it can be attached to a target creature you control or unattached from a creature you control. When attached, it is no longer a creature. Yep. But if you equip this to a creature, that creature gains base power and toughness 5/5, still has menace, and is a black demon in addition to its other colors and types. So why did you send this to me today?
So with Hammer Time, obviously you have the Sagada's Aid, which for 1 white mana, it's an enchantment. Whenever you have a equipment come into play, you get to attach it for free to something. So this gets around the reconfigure cost. So if you Stoneforge it in, Sagada's Aid just puts it into a creature, which is awesome. The other cool thing about this is if in response they blow up the Sagada's Aid, you now have a 3/1 menace, which you probably did at the end of their turn. So you now have a menace creature that you can attack with, or even suit up with something else.
Right, a menace creature is great to put equipment on.
It is.
And one of the things that kind of suffers from is, having a Memnite and an Ornithopter and nothing to put on it.
Yep.
I mean, again, if you don't have a hammer, the deck isn't doing a whole lot. But this is really cool to put on an Ornithopter and end up with a 5/5 menace flyer.
Right. Having the creature just gain base power toughness of 5/5 probably makes this the next best equipment in the deck other than hammer. Because I've seen some lists playing cranial plating, which only pumps power, not toughness. This just straight makes something a 5/5, which in Magic, if you're doing it early enough, is really good. I mean, you're obviously going to be getting hammer 90% of the time, but I think this card could feasibly make its way into some 75s for Hammer Time.
And Hammer Time is definitely leaning more to black-white builds for Thoughtseize and things like that in the board. So there will be times where maybe even that reconfigure cost is not unattainable. 4 mana is a lot to ask in most modern decks, but I think you're right. I think this could easily replace the cranial plating in my Hammer Time deck.
Well, and the 4 reconfigure cost isn't really that bad for Hammer Time, because I feel like sometimes you have turns where you just can't do anything, and if you have this on the battlefield already because you've tried to equip it and the creature died or whatever, it gives you just something to make bigger. It gives you something to do on that turn that otherwise you can't use anything.
Yeah, and a lot of times, if you can play a Stoneforge Mystic on turn 2 and you tutor up, for some of the lists that say are running Cauldra or Nettlecyst, is like they kill the Stoneforge Mystic before it's your turn again. Mm-hmm. You may or may not be able to put those into play, depending on their cost. If you're left with this in your hand and it's still a 3/1 menace for 2, that's not the worst case scenario. The floor feels really low on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just being able to cast it on turn 3 as a 3/1 with menace is still fine. And then on future turns, you reconfigure it onto an Ornithopter. Yeah. It feels like it's going to slot into Hammer Time fairly well.
So, not necessarily a snap this up, but if you've got some Stoneforge Mystics around, they're only getting better.
Yep. With this set, they're only getting better.
100%. Again, there are other creatures. There's a white creature that we're going to talk about later. That's an equipment that you can tutor up with Stoneforge Mystic. That's Graveyard Hate. I mean, you want to talk about that one next?
Yeah, we can talk about that one next.
I didn't. Let's see.
I think it's I don't know if it's a rare.
And we're scrolling. That's another cool
card. I feel
card.
like it's an uncommon or a common, but while you're looking for it, I'll talk about it. I think I have it off the top of my head. It's Lion's Sash. So it's a 1 and a white enchantment. I think it's a 1/1 or a 2/2 body.
There it is.
Okay, so it is a rare. It's an artifact creature, equipment cat. When it's on the battlefield, you can pay a white mana and exile a card from a graveyard. And if it's a permanent spell, put a 1/1 counter on the sash, and then the equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on the sash. So this is, like you said, built-in Graveyard Hate, which is really nice. It's only 1 mana. It's cheap to do that, so that's going to be used a lot. And it's another 2-drop, and its reconfigure cost is 2 generic mana. It also seems like a win. Mana.
Yeah. So it can just sit on the battlefield as Graveyard Hate in those kind of decks, and when you have spare mana around, exile a land, exile a creature, put a couple of counters on this, and then when it's safe, attach this to your Ornithopter or whatever it is. Your weapon of choice. You equip this, and now you've added 3 power to a creature that you had in play. I think that this is a killer.
Well, and like you just said, you can exile a land. It does say a permanent card.
Yeah.
A land is a permanent in all zones of Magic. The only things that are not permanents are instants and sorceries. So this card in Modern, where there's fetch lands and everything like that, it's always going to have something that it can eat to make itself or the creature that it enchants bigger.
Right. Now think about this compared to a card that we don't see a lot of in Modern, but has been a Modern staple in Scavenging Ooze.
Yep.
Right? Scavenging Ooze, if you pay a green, you can exile a card from a graveyard. If it was a creature, you put a counter on it.
And you
gain a life.
Yep.
This says, pay a white, exile a card. If it's a permanent, you put a counter on it.
Yep.
So you don't get the life, but you get the bump for any
You do, right? Because the Scavenging Ooze was only giving you that bump for creatures. This is making it more easy to make bigger by just saying a permanent card, which is basically everything in Magic minus spells.
And being an artifact creature equipment cat, when you play Stoneforge Mystic and it says when this creature enters the battlefield, search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. You just tutored up a creature with your Stoneforge Mystic.
Yep.
Oh my God, that's so great! What's something that you want to talk about?
So the few cycles in this new set seem to be legendary lands that you can channel, which is you pay a mana cost, you discard it from your hand.
Oh, mama, yes.
So this is these are activated abilities off these lands.
Very important.
Very important because it gets around actually a lot of things. But the blue one was the last one to be spoiled, and that was obviously the one that I was most curious about. And here, I'm not going to try to pronounce that name because I'm not going to be able to get it right. Ottawara, Soaring City.
Yep.
Channel, discard, channel, pay 4 mana, 3 in a blue, discard it, return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker. They should have just said non-land spells or non-land cards, just to kind of shorten that text a little bit. But you can basically bounce one of those things to its owner's hand, and it costs 1 less for each legendary creature you control. Now, the thing with Fish is we don't run too many legendary creatures.
But you run a couple.
We run maybe 6.
Yeah.
So at worst, this is going to cost 4. At best, it's going to cost maybe 2. Most likely 3. And it's a main board answer for Ensnaring Bridge, Legendary Planeswalkers, late game,
Blood Moon.
I think this is great. And some people were saying, oh, you're only going to play it as a 1 of. I think we played as a 3 of in the main board. And, that second copy, you can float mana, play the second one, sack the first one, and it kind of gets you there a little bit, but it's a spell that's a land. So remember those flip lands that we were talking about last week? This is kind of the same thing.
Yes. They only had to put it on one side of the card.
Only put it on one side of the card, though, which I think is great.
And I just want to reiterate the channel. So I didn't play an original Kamigawa. I was not familiar with channel. I had to read up on it because there's another card that I want to talk about today that also has channel. It is an activated ability on the card in your hand.
Yep.
It can't be countered.
It
can be stifled.
Nope. It can be stifled, which we thought the Fish community was like, well, it's either going to be bounce or stifle.
Yeah.
So,
one thing that I would point out why this doesn't say non-land is because somebody dumps all their mana into Lara the Hydra and goes to swing at you. You want to be able to bounce that creature.
Yep. That's a good point.
You don't, even though it's a creature land, you don't want to get killed by it. You want to be able to.
That's true. And being able to bounce like a Inkmoth Nexus that's powered up or equipped or whatever. Like Echoing Truth, the bad thing about that card is it says non-lands. I don't know how many times I've had Echoing Truth in hand and not being able to bounce a man-land creature because it states non-land. So I think this is great. I think it's going to be played not just in Fish, but I think it's going to be played in a few decks in Modern. Yeah. Control might play it. Combo decks might play it that are based blue. I think it has a lot of good utility for decks.
You know what I want to show off on camera too is that they don't have the alternate art yet for this one. So
that's a good point.
One of the while we're in this cycle, I definitely want to talk about the black one. This is absolutely going in my Vile Smasher deck in EDH and probably every black EDH from now until eternity. Takanuma, Abandoned Mire. Again, these are legendary lands, but they do come into play untapped and add colored mana. That's busted.
It's huge. How many lands have we gotten, whether they're uncommon or whatever, that end up play tapped? The artifact lands from MH2, all end up play tapped. Some of the dual cycles that we've gotten in the past, standard sets, sometimes they come into play tapped if you don't have a certain number of lands already in play, or if you have too many lands in play already, they come to play tapped. These entering untapped makes it so much better.
So the channel ability for Takanuma it also costs 4 and it's 3 in a black. It has that legendary creatures reduce the cost by 1 effect. But this says mill 3 cards and then return a creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. And so in a really grindy game where maybe your best card has gone to the graveyard, somebody killed your, one of your best creatures, you get it back for a land. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm flooding anyway. I'm going to put this 4 mana in and get my Gonti back, or I'm going to go and get my
Archon of Cruelty back.
Archon of Cruelty back. Oh, baby. And for me, again, I looked at this card and I thought, Vial Smasher, my Vial Smasher deck is loaded with legends, and ways like Sakashima of 1,000 Faces is my partner, so that the legend rule doesn't apply to me. I want to have all legendary creatures. I could likely play this for a black mana in my Vial Smasher deck. How awesome is that?
That's pretty cool. And other modern decks that could play this, the Esper Reanimate deck that's going around that plays the Archon. You can also play it in just mid-range black-red Lurrus with Ragavans, Lurrus, Kraxa.
Right.
There's so many there's so many legendary creatures that get played in modern that this could actually be pretty attainable.
Think about that. Having Lurrus and Ragavan in play and paying 2 mana to get back your whatever you need.
Yeah.
Even if you're like low on mana and you just want to get a Kroxa back out of the graveyard. Did you just say that?
I did. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Because it'd be cheaper than actually trying to escape Kraxus.
And for those of you that are watching us on YouTube, I'm mousing over to show the full art version is gorgeous.
It is.
It's gorgeous. And this in foil will be on my hit list 100% to go. I have one black EDH deck, and I can't wait to find one copy of this card for me, because I think that all of these are going to be buku bucks.
I think so too. The green one, to talk about another one that is going to see some good modern play.
Baby.
Tron is dead. Long live Tron. Seems to be said for anything for Tron hate that comes up in these spoilers. This might actually be the final nail in the coffin for Tron. So sorry, Craig, but
Craig's going to play it though.
In this one, as you see on screen, if you're watching us on YouTube, it's 2 mana. It's 1 in green.
Cost is 2.
The channel cost is 2, which is absurd.
Yeah.
This one should probably been at least 3. Or maybe they all could have been 3. I don't know. 2 just seems really good for it's a land destruction, essentially. Most land destruction spells are 3 mana.
Yeah.
Read
the full text.
So the full text is pay 2, discard, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land an opponent controls. That player may search their library for a land card with a basic land type, which is important. Put onto the battlefield, shuffle. This ability costs 1 less for each legendary creature you control.
So when I saw this, my first thought was, is this a better Assassin's Trophy? Because it's only green mana. You don't need green and black. Mm-hmm. But Assassin's Trophy also gives them a land untapped, but it's only a basic.
It is.
This does allow your opponent to put in any kind of land that has a land type.
Basic land type.
You said, that is an important wording. So, and it can come in untapped. So they could bring in a fetch land.
Yep.
And pay the 2 life and have it come in untapped.
Yep. Not fetch land, shock land.
Sorry, shock land. Yeah. You could get a Triome. If somebody blows up your shock land, you could go fetch up a Triome. So I think calling this land destruction is tough. I think if you need to kill a Valakut or you need to kill that Ink Moth, it may be worth pitching this and paying 1 in a green. But just in a green deck, having a disenchant that has an easier cost than a lot of those kind of cards, that's also a land, so that you don't get mana screwed if you go down to 23 lands or something in a modern deck. It blows my mind. I don't know how these are rare.
They kind of do feel mythic, but if they were mythic, I bet the channel cost would be different. Or they would enter play tapped. But just to talk about the other ones really quick, the white one, which hasn't officially been spoiled, it was kind of leaked, so the picture isn't that great. It's a typical white effect. You pay, this is 3 mana, 2 and a white. Deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. That's a pretty standard ability for white in sets.
Yeah.
And then the red one is 3 in a red, discard, make 2 1/1 color spirit creature tokens. They gain haste instead of turn. Also kind of a very typical red ability for sets. So kind of medium.
This is a hot-ass rare land cycle. No doubt about it.
It is, absolutely. These are going to be sought after for EDH at least.
Yeah.
Definitely modern play. Standard play, obviously, because it is a standard set.
Yeah.
Can't forget about standard. These will see play in all 3 of the major formats. Maybe even Legacy. So 4 major formats.
I don't see why not. I mean, I don't see why Lands doesn't run a Beseju Who Endures. I don't know what they have necessarily that's better for
Wasteland, I guess.
Right, but again, Wasteland doesn't get an artifact enchantment.
Right, yeah.
So
these have tons of utility in pretty much a lot of decks in the format. I mean, only time will tell what actually plays them, but if you can pick them up cheap on pre-release weekend or opening weekend, I would say do it. Don't try to overpay for them.
Yeah, that's good advice. And it will be hard to tell, but they are rares. This set's going to be opened a ton. I would say these are all going to be available in their base printing at $10 at some point.
Yep.
I wouldn't pay more than $10.
I probably wouldn't either.
But I could definitely see this being a $25 rare in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That are, I mean, we were just looking at the Modern Horizons 2 Canopy lands. Modern Horizons 1 Canopy lands, like the Fiery Islet and the, what's the red white one?
Sunbaked Canyon.
Sunbaked Canyon. And those are rares, again, not necessarily from a standard set, but they were the rare lands from their cycle. And they're about $23, $24.
Yep.
A couple of years down the line.
And that set was heavily open because it was a specialty set for Modern.
Yeah.
And we knew that set would be open quite a bit. And
I think that these a lot of these are better.
Probably. Probably.
They're even being just monocolor. I want to give some love to the uncommons, and Secluded Courtyard was the first one that I saw, and everybody immediately said, Secluded Courtyard, this is just strictly better unclaimed territory. You'll hear that a lot. But there's something that is really important to note here. So Secluded Courtyard is a uncommon land. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Now it taps for colorless, typically, an actual wingding. So this can cast Eldrazi. That's important to know.
Yep.
Tap to add 1 mana of any color. Spend this only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, or to activate an ability of a creature or creature card of the chosen type.
Interesting.
And that's very specific language because there are creatures in this set that have channel abilities.
Yes.
And so in your hand, you can pay the channel cost, the colored part of a channel cost, with this land for that creature type.
Okay. So I actually didn't make that connection beforehand until you said it.
Huh.
And the cat, the lion sash, does have a cat creature type on it.
Yeah.
So if you play this and you name cats for your cat EDH deck, you can then activate its activate ability with this land.
Because it is a creature card.
Because it's a creature card. The other thing that was brought up that I first noticed, this is also a better ancient Ziggurat in humans, because it can actually cast Aether Vial, which was one of the biggest issues that humans had before, was they'd lead with an ancient Ziggurat and they couldn't lead with an Aether Vial. They'd have to lead with one of their one-drop creatures.
Yeah.
This could just straight up replace it.
Hallelujah. This is an awesome uncommon that I think has a lot of play to it.
Yep.
And I'm going to come to a creature in a minute where we talk about why that activated ability thing. And then I think this just came out today. And I think that this is going to see a lot less play because this is for a very obscure tribe.
Yep.
But Mech Hanger is an uncommon land that also taps for true wingding. It will also add 1 mana of any color if you want to spend it on a pilot or vehicle spell. And then it has 3 and a tap. Target vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. And one of the biggest problems with vehicles is when somebody wraths your board or kills all of your creatures and you have a vehicle that takes 4 or 6 power to crew.
It's no good.
It's no good. It's just a dead artifact on the battlefield. 1 or 2 of these in the land base of an artifact, or a lot of times dwarves and vehicles go together. But if you have a vehicle deck, this is an absolute include in any kind of vehicles build.
Absolutely.
And they've given us a bunch more vehicles here. They're really trying to make that a thing. I love this. And actually, throughout this set, they have many ways to make vehicles more likely to happen.
They have. And that's, I feel like this is more for the draft format for the set, because it gives you kind of mana fixing for a dual color deck. It gives you a sweet ability for vehicles, which could be a theme for drafting.
Yep.
Or just if you have like you said, a dwarf vehicle EDH deck, which there is kind of a thing for, this does seem like an auto include. And it's being able to turn a otherwise useless vehicle into a creature, because they already have those power toughnesses printed on the card, is great.
Yeah. Did you have another card you wanted to talk about?
I did. It was Generous Visitor, which is a green card, and I can't think of anything else on it, unfortunately. I don't think it was a rare, although I thought of the last one too. It is on Mythic Spoiler.
Is it in English? That's my next question.
Yes, it should be.
We are scrolling,
right there.
folks. All right, we found it.
So this is a uncommon. It's 1 green. Spirit creature. Whenever you cast a enchantment spell, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It is a 1/1. But I wanted to point this out because I feel like it goes straight into any type of Enchantress decks. Because Enchantress, as a deck in Modern, maybe even Legacy, doesn't have a lot of good 1-drop plays. So you play this on turn 1, and every other creature or thing that you play in the deck is a enchantment. So this card is always going to get bigger. On turn 2, it's going to be a 2/2. On turn 3, it could be a 4/4, depending on your mana and what you use. So and there's other enchantment creatures, both in this set and in MH2, that get played. So I just wanted to point this card out because I think it's something that could see Modern play pretty easily.
Yeah, I like this because one of the things that I will also point out, I feel like the Enchantress deck in Modern especially doesn't close out the game well.
No.
Like, it doesn't have another way to put pressure on you. And maybe even just out of the sideboard to, say, in game 2 where somebody is, going to bring in control magic or they're going to bring in enchantment removal. Mm-hmm. They're going to be able to answer your core game plan. But if you go turn 1 Generous Visitor, they're so screwed.
It's gonna put a clock on them pretty quickly. Yeah. And they now have to not only contend with you trying to lock them out with whatever enchantments they're playing, they now have to worry about a creature that can make other creatures bigger, which some of the enchantments that are already creatures, they're pretty beefy. So
yeah. What else you got?
That's kind of about it. The last few things is the new dragon cycle. Both the mythics and the rares all seem really good. And then the new Jin Tactics, which was spoiled a few days ago. And once we got the actual worded text for it, it just seems really busted. Yeah,
this will be an EDH all-star staple, also available in full Phyrexian in the set. Jin Gataxias Progress Tyrant. 5 blue for Praetor. Whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery, copy it. And you can choose new targets for the copy. Only triggers once per turn. It's safe. But whenever an opponent casts an artifact, instant, or sorcery, counter that. This ability only happens once per turn. It's safe.
I think I actually missed the tail end of both of those when I was reading it. So that actually seems more balanced to me now. But you're paying 7 mana for a 5/5. So the mana rate there seems about right. And then its ability, if it didn't have that clause at the end, of both of those sentences, could have just been overwhelming, but triggering it once per turn. Okay.
So earlier I mentioned a 2/2 for 1 red mana, Reinforced Ronin, artifact creature, human samurai. Haste, at the beginning of your end step, return it to your hand. Has a channel ability. For 1 and a red, you can discard it to draw a card.
Seems good.
It's very interesting. I don't know that a red X humans deck is great, but I'll tell you what, it's kind of like Dash,
Yep.
right? Like it has built-in Dash.
Yep.
For 1 red, you get it. It has haste. It's going to come back to your hand. If on turn 1, you play Champion of the Parish, on turn 2, you play another Champion of the Parish and one of these guys, you're swinging
for 4 damage on turn 2.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 damage. Yep.
5 damage on turn 2. It bounces back to your hand. The next turn, you're getting counters on your stuff again. That's great. What happens when you can't swing in with a 2/2? Well, you could just play it, get the counter on your Champion of the Parish or Thalia's Lieutenant, and at the end of turn, it comes back to your hand. Or you can just cycle it for 1 in her head.
Yep, and get a brand new card. Like
Yep.
That's a lot of the issues with these cheap spells like this in the beginning of the game is they're great until a certain board state, and then they, like you said, you can kind of just play them for little value. This one lets you pitch it for something totally new, and that's something that you don't see a lot of on these cards. And it gives it more value a little bit. This card, because of the discard draw, you can play it in Dredge as well. Some of the newer Dredge lists are playing more red spells.
Yeah.
And this could fit into that.
Also in the late game, this pitches great to Fury in
Yep.
Modern,
Yep. Which is great. Yeah.
which you have to think about now. Like, that's a old school Magic thing. Like, this blue card is decent, but it pitches to Force, so it's better than a card of another color that did the same thing.
Yep.
This is like, okay, this in a red deck, like, this card might not be the best. It may not be better than Goblin Guide, but or
Maybe it is because it's not giving your opponent the chance to draw lands.
if it can connect.
Right.
Which, same thing with Goblin Guide. Like, once somebody's got a 2/3 in play,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
not worth it.
So I really like this. Actually, it was another fellow humans aficionado, Leif Erikson, who messaged me this and was like, he just sent me, hey, here's the text. He copied and pasted it right from Mythic Spoiler.
Yep.
And I read it, and I saw that channel, 1 in a red, discard, Reinforced Ronin, draw a card, and I thought, what is that triggering in my brain? What is that triggering in my brain? And what it triggered in my brain was our good friend, Secluded Courtyard, saying,
Yep.
why is this language so specific? Not only can this mana activate an ability of a creature, but it can also activate an ability of a creature card.
That's very specific.
That is very specific. And it really clicked for me that it was like, oh, channel is an activated ability. I now have a cantrip that you can't counter.
Mm-hmm.
And I can pay for it with this uncommon 5-color humans land.
It's so good. And, the human mana base got better with the unclaimed territory. And,
100%. That's what
I think there was another one, too, that got spoiled around that time. But that courtyard is going to be included. I don't know if it's going to breathe new life into the deck, but it's going to be included.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think it's probably gonna take the place of some ancient ziggurats around the world.
Yep.
I have 2 other cards that I wanted to talk about. So if you don't have anything you're particularly excited about, I hope we don't run out of things to talk about next week. And I was trying to remember. Now, there was a card in Standard maybe a year ago that was like 2 mana, and it got a couple of counters on it, and then you could tap it, take a counter off, and draw a card. and it was played in all of the people trying colorless decks on Arena. And I cannot for the life of me, even Eldrazi tried it for a little while in the sideboard.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, I'm going to be so irritated. Maze Mind Tome.
Oh, yes.
Now I got to look this up. Maze Mind Tome.
I think you put counters on it.
Oh, that's what it was. You put a counter on it.
Yeah.
And come
Texas,
on.
You can get the text right there.
Yeah, I'm going to put it up on the
picture.
screen.
Yep.
So Maze Mind Tome was a 2-mana artifact. You could put a counter on it to scry, or you could pay 2 and tap to draw a card. Once you had 4 counters on it, it goes away. You gain 4 life. So this was a card that has seen play in Modern.
Mm-hmm. Into good use, too, because it's a reoccurring draw effect.
Enter rare Reckoner Bankbuster Artifact Vehicle from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. This is a 2-mana artifact vehicle, and it enters the battlefield with 3 charge counters on it. 2 and a tap, remove a charge counter, and draw a card. Now, to be fair, the scry ability on Mazebind Tome being basically free, you just tap it, was huge, because you could really use that in the early game to just make sure you were getting your next land drop. I'm not discounting that the scry ability was valuable. But this will draw you 3 cards if you need it to. If there are no charge counters on Reckoner Bankbuster, create a treasure and a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token with this creature crew's vehicles as though its power were 2 greater.
Okay.
So after you've gotten your 3 cards, you get a mana back, and you get a 1/1 that can crew a vehicle as if it were 3 powered. Oh, look, Reckoner Bankbuster has crew 3 and is a 4/4.
Yep.
I think that this will be a great, this is the kind of card that I could see totally being a great 2 of in a control deck in Standard.
Yep.
And maybe even in some other decks where it's like, I'm going to kill all your stuff, I'm going to kill all your stuff, I'm going to counter your spells. When I have mana, I'm going to draw an extra card. When I have mana, I'm going to draw an extra card. And then this thing turns into a 4/4, and I'm going to use it to close out the game.
Because a 4/4 creature in Standard even is a decent-sized body. And there are other ways in this set to make this a creature faster.
Yeah.
So I think this will see Standard play.
Right. There is I think there's a 1/1 that can crew a 3.
I believe so. Yep.
Like something Fearless Pilot.
I think it's white.
Hot Shot Mechanic. It's white. It can crew. It's a 2/1 for 1 that can crew vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. So you can play this on 1. You can play that
vehicle on
2. And just hold up a 4/4 blocker.
Yep.
The next turn, maybe you play another one of these. You can swing with both or whatever. But I think that crew cost of 3 is insignificant in this set, where they're really making this thing crew vehicles as though its power were different than it is a huge way to get around the other drawback of vehicles. So I think that they're working hard to make vehicles playable.
Yep.
And having card advantage on something that can eventually be a closer. And I'm not reading the comments here, but there are ways to play with charge counters.
Yep.
I think I just saw a comment that mentioned Vorinclex, but the new Vorinclex, it's going to win the game on its own.
It will.
But it's, if this would come in with 6 counters or blah, blah, blah. Then draw a card. So you do have to activate this at the point when there are no counters on it.
Right, so because it says then if, so you have to remove all 3 counters, or find ways to remove all 3 counters, and there are ways to remove any type of counter from Magic.
Oh yeah.
From Magic cards. So there might be something out there that you play this, you put the 3 counters on it, and then you remove them instantly. Or you copy the creature. The copy doesn't enter the battlefield. I guess it would with the counters. But either way, there are ways to fiddle with that.
In every rule in Magic, there's a way around it.
Yep. So
So
Who knows?
I really like this card. I mean, there's a reason why it's a rare, but I don't think this is a junk rare. I think this will see play. I think that if Maze Mind Tome saw play, I think that this can see play because this can also close out a game. Draw you 3 cards and see play. And then the last thing I want to talk about today is just the better Mirror Gallery. Mirror Box is a 3-mana artifact instead of a 5-mana artifact that says the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control.
Yep. I saw this, and the first thing I immediately thought that came to my mind was the Mirror Gallery, right? Which was basically the same thing. It took away the legend rule. This does more than the original one did. The legend rule, though, has changed a bit between the first Mirror Gallery and this.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the legend rule now is you can't have 2 of the exact same planeswalkers or 2 of the exact same creatures, which I guess was the same. Well, it was different because the last one was you couldn't even have 2 different planeswalkers with the same name.
Right, you couldn't have Jace Balerion and Jace the Mind Sculpt.
Right. So with that change, this now says you can just have multiple copies of both.
Yep. And again, in my Vile Smasher Sakashima of 1,000 Faces deck, that just wants to make as many Vile Smashers as I can.
Yep.
And so I want Sakashima, which also says the legend rule doesn't apply, to copy a Vile Smasher, and then I want to copy that Sakashima, and then I want to put in Mirror Box because this pumps up all of my legendary creatures because the rest of the text on this is not only does the legend rule not apply, but it's also a Lord for Legends.
Yep.
And each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name. So then it's coat of arms.
Yep.
And so if I have 5 Vile Smashers that are normally 2/3s or whatever, and now they're 3/4s, but I have 5 of them, they're now
They're now huge.
8/9s.
Yep.
Like now they're actually threats to swing.
So how are you making those copies though? Are you making them a token copy? Because that's not going to work with that last line of text
because
on
each
the artifact.
non-token creature you
Right.
control.
So you'd have to copy it with, like, say, Phantasmal Image,
Right, or clone.
or clone.
Or Sakashima, which is what that deck is doing.
Okay.
That deck, it only has my deck, I think, only has 2 ways to make a token copy. I think Spark Double is also a permanent.
Yep.
I don't know if I have any spell copies.
Because
Helm of the Host makes a token copy.
Yes.
So Helm of the Host copies wouldn't count. But pretty much everything else in there is a clone creature.
Okay. Because I immediately thought of my Coma deck, which is the Legendary Serpent from Kaldheim, but it wants to make token copies of things. Yeah. So this might not be good for that unless I find a way to make more physical copies instead of token copies, which there are ways to do, like you said, the clones, the clone effects, stuff like that. Yeah. So,
well, and again, at 3 mana and doing something else other than just saying the legend rule doesn't apply, this is an auto-include in a shitload of EDH decks. So, so this is another one that if you see this at opening weekend and it's cheap,
probably like no more than like maybe $5 or so. Because this probably won't see play in Modern, right? It's not going to see play in probably any constructed format. It's going to see more play in EDH. So
it'll grow over time.
Yeah. So if it's a fancy version of it and it's cheap, you can get it for cheap. Probably might want to do that because we'll see.
I'm a huge fan. Like I said, this set has got me more excited than any set in a long time. So good on you, Wizards. You did it. You did the thing.
Yeah, let's just put it to time and see what time does with a lot of these cards, because time will tell. Time always tells what happens, right?
I will tell you that Zach and I talked a little bit about just the first hints of conversation towards Double Masters 2. What might be in there? What can we look forward to getting cheaper later this year? Or what is something you don't want to be holding on to? So that's a conversation we're going to have later. But I think for today,
that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You have been listening to the SnapCast podcast with Zach Moeller. You can see on screen he's at MO_town111 on Twitter. And I'm Brad O'Brien, which is just at the SnapCast Pod on Twitter. If you want to get in touch with us, feel free to hit us up there. If you're listening to the audio podcast, you can always check us out on YouTube. And if you found us on YouTube and you like your podcast the old-fashioned way, you can find it wherever you like. Cue the music and
Catch you
great
guys
hanging
later.
out.
Yeah, great hanging out with you.